Alright, so again, we're in the Unit 2 folder, Unit 2 test review. It's all the way at the bottom. The link is in the chat if you don't know, okay, or if you can't find it, either way. Alright, so number one, I want to solve the equation for the given variable. Okay, I'm solving the equation for the given variable. Alright, and again, the way we solve an equation is we are going to use inverse operations to move things. Okay, so you're always looking for like terms to combine first, and then you're going to work in reverse PEMDAS. Okay, so I get rid of adding and subtracting, I get rid of multiplication and division, exponents, etc., etc., etc. Can you now see me? Okay. Alright, my team is acting up. Alright. So the first thing I need to do on number one is I need to distribute my 2. Okay, so distribute again means to multiply. So I'm distributing the 2 to both terms in that parenthesis. So I'm multiplying the 2 times the h, and I get 2h. I multiply the 2 times the positive 6, and I get plus 12. Still got a minus h here. And then on the other side of the equal sign, you've got h plus 12. Alright, so now I can look for like terms. If I have like terms on the same side of the equal sign, I can combine those. So in this case, I have a like term of 2h and negative h. I can go ahead and combine those. Alright, so you got $2. You spend 1, you subtract 1, you only have $1 left. So I've got h plus 12 over here. On the other side, you've got h plus 12. So I've got a variable on both sides. I'm solving for h, right? So I've got a variable on both sides. So I need to move one of them. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter which way you move it. You can move this one to the left, or you can move this one to the right. Either way, you get the same answer. Okay, I'm just going to subtract h here, subtract h here. All right, so h minus h, that cancels out. You're left with 12. On this side, you've got h minus h, that cancels out. You're left with 12. So 12 equals 12. Okay, now, my variable canceled out. Again, when your variable cancels out, you have two possible solutions. One is infinite, many, and the other is no solution. So you got two possible cases when your variables cancel out. You can either have infinite many solutions, which means every possible number, or you can have no solution, which means nothing that I plug in will make the statement true. Okay, well, how do I know which one to pick? Right? You're going to look at your statement. Is 12 equal to 12? Yes, that's a true statement. If the statement is true, then the answer is infinite many solutions. If the statement is false, then your answer is no solution. So again, your variables cancel out, and you get a true statement, it is infinite many solutions. Your variables cancel out, and you get a false statement, it is no solution. No solution. Okay, so let's go to number 2. Number 2, I've got negative 3 plus 5z equals negative 6 plus 5z. So once again, I see I've got a plus 5z over here, plus 5z right here. I need to move one of them. So my operation would be to subtract 5z on both sides. That cancels out. You get negative 3 is equal to, that cancels out, negative 6. Okay, well, negative 3 is not equal to negative 6. So once again, my variable canceled out, but my statement is false. Statement is false. The answer is no solution. So just solving for a variable. Solving for a variable. Okay, make sure we know when my variables cancel out, infinite many or no solution. Hint, hint. Make sure we know that. Number 3, tell whether the sequence is arithmetic. If it is, what's the common difference? So again, how do I tell if it's an arithmetic sequence? It has to be a fixed number. The common difference has to be a fixed number added from term to term. If the number changes, it's not an arithmetic sequence. Okay, so I'm looking, how do I get from 1 to 4? I add 3. How do I get from 4 to 8? I add 4. How do I get from 8 to 13? I add 5. That's not a fixed number. My number is changing. So therefore the answer is D. It is not an arithmetic sequence. Okay, we go to number 4. I'm looking at the same thing. I want to tell if it's an arithmetic sequence or not. Okay, so I'm going to look at how do I get from 29 to 33, I add 4. How do I get from 33 to 37? I add 4. and then 37 to 41 I add 4. So yes, it's an arithmetic sequence because you have the same common difference. It's a fixed term. Well, what is D? D is your common difference, which is a positive 4. Positive 4. Okay, just for funsies, let's go ahead and find the 15th term. So I'm going to use the explicit formula, which the explicit formula is a sub n is equal to a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times the common difference. So just for funsies, we're finding the explicit formula. We're using the explicit formula to find the 15th term in the sequence. And when I say just for funsies, I mean it may be under test. Alright, so a sub 15, a sub n is equal to a sub 1. A sub 1, this again is the first term. D is the common difference. And then n is the term that we're looking for, which in this case is 15. Alright, so let's rock and roll. I've got a sub 1. A sub 1 is the first term. Well, the first term is 29. Plus n minus 1, so n is 15 minus 1, times the common difference of 4. So now we're there. Okay, so now order of operations tells me that the first thing I need to do is I need to take 15 and I need to subtract 1. I need to do what's in the parentheses first. So I'm looking here. I've got a sub 15 is equal to 29 plus 14 times 4. So now next step, I'm going to multiply 14 times 4 and I get 56. And then last but not least, a sub 15 is equal to 85. 56 plus 29. So once again, using the explicit formula, let's talk about what the terms are in my explicit formula. A sub n, again, n is the number of term that I'm looking for. So I ask you to find the 15th term in this case. I could ask you to find the 86th. I could ask you to find the 22nd. I could ask you to find the 33rd. Okay, whatever term I'm looking for is n, right? So a sub 1 is the first term in the sequence. The first term in this case was 29. That's going to go in place of a sub 1. Plus n minus 1. Again, n is the term you're looking for. So in this case it was 15 minus 1 times the common difference, which is 4. It has to be an arithmetic sequence to be able to use the explicit formula. Well, why is that the case? Because it has to have a common difference. If it's not an arithmetic sequence, it doesn't have a common difference. Alright, let's go to number 5. What are the solutions of the inequality? Right? I'm going to treat the inequality just like an equation. Just like an equation. There's only one difference. There is one rule when dealing with an inequality. If I multiply or divide by a negative, I must flip my inequality symbol. Everything else is the exact same. Alright, so I'm looking at number 5. I want to solve for x, right? So the first thing I need to do is I need to get rid of this minus 6. Inverse operations of a minus 6 is to add 6 on both sides. So now you've got 8x is less than 16. Okay, last step would be to divide by 8. You get x is less than 2. Okay, again, there's one rule. When you multiply, or divide by a negative, you flip the inequality symbol. Okay, so that's the only thing you need to remember about inequalities that's different than just solving a regular equation. Everything else is the exact same. I solve it the same way. Inverse operations, reverse PEMDAS. The only change is at the end, when you're dividing that coefficient, if that's a negative number, you must flip your inequality symbol. Okay, so what do I mean by flip my inequality symbol? If this was a negative 8, if I was dividing right here by a negative 8, this would then become a greater than sign. Right now it's less than. So to flip it, it would become greater than. It's not equal to, so you cannot make it equal to. Now, if it already was equal to, you keep the line underneath. So all you're doing is you're changing which way it opens. If there's a line underneath, you leave the line underneath. If there is no line underneath, you don't put one. Everything else is the exact same. Let's go on. Number 6. 15 minus 2t is equal to t. Alright, I'm going to solve for t. I'm solving for the given variable. Alright, so I've talked enough. Let's get some of y'all to help me. Esau, you there? Esau, going once, going twice. Okay, I need to change your attendance. Alright, you there? Alright, Ara, help me out. Right, I've got 15 minus 2t is equal to t. So what's your first step? Okay, so what are you trying to do, Ara? Fantastic. So I'm going to try to get the variables on the same side. You got a variable over here, variable over here. You need to get them on the same side. So I'm going to add 2t to both sides. Alright, so when you do that, Ara, what do you get? Great job. So then the last step is to do what? Divide by the coefficient to get t by itself. So I'm dividing by 3. Ara, what'd you get? Great job. Haley, you there? Haley, you there? Okay, I'll change your attendance to Ilm, you there? Alright, Ilm, let's do number 7, bud. Okay. Add 9 to both sides. Why are you adding 9? Okay, but the 9 is not a variable. Okay, that's fine. So I added 9. So what do you get now? Fantastic. So 2x plus 4. So I've got a negative 5 and I add 9 to that. So you've got $9. You subtract 5. You got a plus 4 here. Alright, so now, Ilm, what's the next step? Okay, so what are you trying to do there? Yeah, I've got a variable on the left, I got a variable on the right. I need to move them all to the same side. So I'm getting them all away from that number, the positive 4. Alright, so when I do that, Ilm, what do you get? Last step, divide by the coefficient. So then x equals. Great job, Ilm. Mia, you there? Mia, número 8. Yeah. Okay, but it's already subtracted, Mia, so what are you going to do?
Oh, you're going to add.
Yeah, opposite, right? So add 3x to both sides. Good job. Okay, so that cancels out. You got 7 on the left equals 9 plus x. Next step.
You're going to subtract 7.
Okay, but now, Mia, look over here. I've got a number and a variable. Over here, I've just got a number. So I've already got my, hold on, I've already got my variables together. Okay, so I want to get this number away from the variable. So I don't want to move the 7 to the right, but I want to move this 9 to the left.
So you subtract 9 from both sides.
Fantastic. So what do you get, Mia?
You're going to get negative. Wait, no. Well, it'll be
Yeah, there you go. Namdi, you there? Namdi, you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Namdi, can you help me out with number 9?
Yeah. So you distribute a 6.
Okay, what does distribute mean, Namdi? So when I distribute the 6, what do I get?
6y minus 36.
And that's equal to negative 18, right? Okay, perfect. So again, don't forget to distribute that 6 to both terms, right? So 6y and then minus 36. It's not 6y minus 6. All right, great job. So now, Namdi, what's the next step?
Add 36 to both sides.
Fantastic. So 6y is on the left. On the right side, what do you get?
On the right side, you get 18.
Perfect. And then last step, divide by the coefficient. So I get y equals. Great job. Easy breezy, right? Easy breezy. Sorry, you couldn't see that, huh? Give you a second to look at it. If you want. All right, let's flip the paper over. So I'm looking at number 10. Number 10 says, which equation has no solution? Right? Which equation has no solution? Okay, so in order for it to be no solution, Taylor, what has to happen?
it has to be false. Like it'd be like 3 equals 6. That's not.
Okay, but what has to happen first before I look to see if it's true or false? Exactly, the variable has to cancel out. Okay, so you're looking at the answer choices, and I need to have the same variable on both sides, right? So on this A, I've got a negative 3v. On the right side, I've got a positive 3v. Those are not the same. Okay, if I look at C, I've got 3w minus w, which would be 2w. And then over here, you've got 5w minus 2w. You've got 3w. So those are not the same. On D, you've got 3m. And then on the right side, you've got 5m minus m. So you've got 4m on the right side. Those are not the same. So let me give you a hint. B is the correct answer. Okay, let's look at B. I've got a 6y and I've got a 6y. So I know right now when I move one of those, I have to subtract it. So when I subtract 6y from 6y, the variables are going to cancel out. So now you're looking at the statement. Okay, so Taylor, you said if it's false, it means no solution, correct? Okay, so I've got a positive 3 on the left, I've got a negative 3 on the right. Well, 3 does not equal negative 3. Therefore, B is the correct answer. B is the correct answer. All right, number 11. It says, what equation do you get when you solve that for y? Okay, so now, the correct answer, okay, is C. And let me explain how I got that. Okay, but B also works. And let me show you what they did for B. Okay, so if I'm looking here, I'm solving for y. So the first step I need to do in solving for y is I need to multiply that cube because it's divided. And the inverse operation of divided is to multiply. Okay, so I'm going to multiply by q on both sides. So I've got q times Vy minus Zp is equal to, and I multiplied by q over here, so that canceled out. I've got Py over here. So then to solve for y, I would then divide by p, right? I want the y by itself, so I divide by the variable p. That cancels out and you get y is equal to q times vy minus zp over p. Okay, so that's B. That's the correct answer. Okay, now, that's not technically all the way correct, because I solved for y, but the problem is you've got another y right here. Okay, so now let me show you how to get C, which is technically the correct answer. Okay, now don't worry, you're not going to have one like this on the test, okay, because we have not learned how to do this. But why not do it, right, just for funsies? Okay, so I'm looking at this. I'm back here, and I'm going to solve, and I'm going to show you how I got C as the right answer. Because if you notice in C, you have the y by itself. There is no more y's in here. Whereas in B, you still have a y right there. So technically, in B, you didn't really solve for y because there's still the same variable in your answer choice. All right, so again, let me show you, just for funsies, how to do C, right? So I've got Vy minus Zp is equal to Py divided by Q. Back to my problem. All right, so I'm going to do the same first step. Same first step, right? I want to get rid of the Q. And in order to get rid of something, I need to do the inverse operation. So the inverse operation of divided by Q is to multiply by Q on both sides. That cancels out. You've got Py over here is equal to Q times Vy minus Zp. So same first step. Okay, now the next step would then be to distribute in this Q. Because what I'm looking at, guys, is I need to get the variables on the same side. I've got a y over here and I've got a y over here. So you need to either move this y to that side, or you need to move this y to that side. Okay, so right now I need to multiply this Q, distribute this Q, so that I can move my terms around. So I'm going to distribute my Q to both terms. So Q times Vy is Q Vy minus Q Zp is equal to Py. All I did was multiply. All I did was distribute. All right. We good there? Give me a head nod. Give me something. All right. Rock on. Okay. So now, again, I want the y's on the same side, right? The way I solve for a variable is I need to get the variables on the same side. So I need to get this y to that side. So if it's a positive Py, I'm going to subtract it. So I'm subtracting Py to that side. But now I also need to move this negative QZP. So I need to move that to that side. So then I would add QZP to that side. Okay, so now I've got QZY. I didn't touch that. Sorry, QVY. Excuse me. I didn't touch that. Now I moved the PY over. It's a positive, so I had to subtract it, inverse operations. So to move it, I subtract PY. And that's equal to, and then I move this negative QZP to that side, so I added it, so now it's a positive QZP. Okay, now you notice that both of those have a Y in them. Okay, so now basically what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact opposite of distributing something. We're going to factor something out. So my answer, once I get done, will look like this. I'm going to factor out the Y. This has a Y in it, this has a Y in it. So I could take this Y out, and I could take this Y out and put it out front. So Y times QV minus P. Okay, let me explain again what I did. All I did was factor out this Y. So this Y came out in front, this Y came out in front. So you're left with QV, and you're left with the minus P. Over here you got the same thing. You've got QZP. Okay, so then now, to solve for Y, this is just Y times that. So it's the same thing as me saying 2x is equal to 4. 2 times x equals 4. So what would I do? I'd divide by 2 to get x by itself. Same thing, I want the y by itself. So what would I do? I would divide by QV minus P. So then my answer is y is equal to QZP over QV minus P. So it's the same thing, guys, it's just different order, right? So ZPQ is the same thing as ZPQ or QZP. Those are all multiplied together, so it doesn't matter what order I write them in. I could write 2x, I could write x2. I could write xy, I could write yx. It's the same thing, they're multiplied together. Okay, so that is how I got C, which is technically the correct answer, but B works also. I know. Coach Sapp, calm down. All right, you make it too hard. Good on 11-ish. Like I said, don't worry. Not going to be a one where you have to factor out the y, because we haven't really worked on that yet. All right, let's go to number 13. Let's go to number 13. Usman, you there? All right, Usman, help me out with number 13. What's the first step?
Oh, alright. So I'm going to take 12, first we have to do the parentheses, 12G, 3 plus, and then you multiply 12 times 3, which is 36.
Perfect. So 3 plus 13G, didn't touch what's on the left side, is greater than or equal to 12G plus 36. Awesome. Okay, so now, Usman, what am I trying to do now? I'm trying to get the variables on one side. I'm trying to get the numbers on the other.
Subtract 12G from both sides, from 13G.
Okay. So that goes away. So now on the left side, you've got 3 plus G is greater than or equal to 36. So try to get the G by itself, correct? So G is greater than or equal to. Easy breezy. Easy breezy. Samia, you there? Samia?
Yeah?
Can you help me out with number 14?
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna write this down. What is it? Okay. So, you distribute property. So you get, you get 15x minus 6 is greater than or equal to 15x minus 11.
Okay.
And then you move the variables to one side. So you do minus 15x minus 15x. And you get negative 6 is greater than or equal to negative 11, so it's no solution.
So my variables canceled out, and again, that's a false statement. Negative 6 is not greater than, excuse me. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's think about it, Samia. Why is that the case? Right? The variables canceled out. Okay, so let's think about this. This is not an equal sign anymore, right? This is a greater than or equal to sign. So is negative 6 greater than or equal to negative 11?
Yes?
That's a true statement.
Oh.
If you owed somebody $6, negative 6, you owe somebody $6, or you owe somebody else $11, you've got a greater debt to the $11, right? So the negative 6 is a greater value than negative 11. So therefore it's a true statement. Okay, so now it's a true statement, then my answer is all real numbers. That was a tough one. All right, Ryan, will you help me out? What's the last one? Ryam, are you there?
Say Ryan or Ryan?
Ryam.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Ryan, will you help me out? What's the last one?
You times 4x by 17.
Okay, now, hold on, buddy. Okay, that 4x is not distributed. This negative is distributed. This is saying negative 1 times that. Okay, that's totally different. This is what you're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do. That 4 is not up next to that parentheses. There's a minus sign there. So there's a whole other operation. So that negative 4 is not a part of that. Does that make sense, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start over here. I've got a variable and I've got a variable. I can combine those.
It'll become 9x
Okay, and then plus 11
plus 11,
greater than.
4x.
Okay, now let's go ahead and distribute this. So the negative goes here and the negative goes here.
Negative 17 and negative 9x.
Okay, almost. Again, we're distributing, right? So the negative goes here, so negative 17, I agree, but then the negative goes here also. You already had a negative, exactly, you already had a negative 9x, and then you distribute a negative and a negative. Two wrongs make a right. So now we're there. All right, Ryan, now the next step I'm looking, I got a 4x right here, and I've got a 9x right here. Those are like terms.
It'll become 13x.
Okay, so on the left, I've still got 9x plus 11. On the right side, I've got 9x and 4x, and I add those together, and I get 13x minus 17. All right, let's keep rocking, Ryan. Ryan, I want to ask you, let's move this 13 to that side. So how would I move that?
13x minus by 9 is 13.
Okay, so it's a positive 13x, so how do I move it? Inverse operation of a positive would be to?
Minus.
So yeah, I'm going to subtract 13x on both sides. That goes away. Okay, you've got 9 minus 13x, Ryan. What do you get?
Negative 4x.
Fantastic. And then plus 11 is greater than negative 17. All right, so now, Ryan, I've got this negative 4x over here. I need to get rid of the number that's with it.
Subtract 11.
Fantastic. Okay, so I've got negative 4x is greater than, what happens there?
6.
Try again. I've got a negative 17 and a negative 11. So let's think about it, but they're both positive right now, Ryan. Right? So they're positive 17, positive 11. What happens when I add those together?
You get 28.
Yeah, so but they're both negative, okay? But it's the same thing. If you owe somebody 17 bucks, you owe somebody else 11 bucks, you owe $28 total. You didn't get any money back. Okay, so it's the same thing. I'm adding two negatives together. I get a negative 28. You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ryan, the last step would be to divide by the coefficient. So I'm dividing by what?
7.
Coefficient, baby. I don't see a 7 here. What am I dividing by?
4.
Yeah, okay, okay. Negative 4, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Negative 4. Why do I keep pointing out negative 4, Ryan? Ryan, why do I keep saying I'm dividing by a negative 4? Okay, but why is that important? Why is that important, Ryan? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
What does that say?
Multiply or divide by negative.
You what?
Flip.
Flip. Keep reading.
Inequality.
Okay, so let's go back to my answer, right? It was x is greater than 7, okay, but I divided by a negative 4. So Ryan, what is my answer?
Positive 7.
Okay, but I need an inequality, babe. So x, 7.
Greater than equal to. I mean, greater than.
Okay, but let's go back to this. You just told me that if I multiply or I divide by a negative number, what do you need to do, Ryan?
Less.
Okay, so it was a greater than. It was already greater than.
So the other way.
Okay, so what do I make it?
Less than.
There's your answer. So again, when you multiply or divide by a negative with an inequality, that's your one rule, that you must flip your inequality sign. So it was x is greater than, it became x is less than 7. Notice that it was not equal to start with, it's not equal to in the answer. Okay, so if there was no line underneath, you cannot all of a sudden put a line underneath. Where is my cursor?